Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to my video. Just wanted to start off by letting you know that you matter. You are important. A lot of people don't get told that enough, and sad as it is, a lot of times it's men, even boys growing up, but I don't want to discount anyone's experience in their life and whatnot, so I just want to reiterate, you are important. You are here for a reason. We may go through trials and whatnot as we grow, and they suck, but they're typically meant for a reason. I have friends tell me, well, I'm not you, I haven't been through such and such, so I'm not such and such, and I didn't have the best life growing up. I was raised on welfare, and then in my teens I was in foster homes. I was always the runt of the litter. For as early as I can remember, actually, my very first memory actually is kindergarten age, maybe nursery, and we lived in a complex just across the playground from the school. And each morning on the walk, I would kind of peek out my head and look out both ways down the complex to see if the coast was clear, and I would run as quickly as I could with my backpack, and every day, sure enough, the bully would just come barreling from behind me, and he had to be a few grades older than me because he was huge, and he would just bowl me over, body check me, hit me, whatever he planned to do that day, and then he'd run off to school, and I'd kind of drag myself up and into the school. And that was normal for me. I was bullied all through school till grade 11. I hit my growth spurt just before grade 11, and I changed schools at the same time, so I've been bullied through that whole time, and it sucked. A lot of times when kids are bullied at school, they come home and they're just happy to be home, or they don't want to go to school because they never want to leave home. I was the opposite, to be honest with you. I was beaten most of my childhood, until I went into foster homes. So from about earliest memories of the abuse is probably about 8 years old till about 12. It could have happened before then, but maybe my memory is just fuzzy in that aspect of it. There was a lot of verbal abuse, but then as time went on, it turned into physical. I've always had this thing with respect, I would respect people, but if they don't respect me, well, I'd speak out on it, you know what I mean? So I had a stepdad that disliked me, we'll put it that way, and he disliked me often, especially when he was in a bad mood, and I just got to a point where I just wouldn't stand for it anymore. I'd been starved lots. That was when the verbal abuse wasn't fitting his liking, he would starve me for not responding properly to him or the way he liked me to. And I used to ration Halloween food. I'd go out with my cousin and we'd fill a couple of pillowcases. Little did he know, because he would just gorge himself on it. When we get back, I'd be rationing all throughout the years. So whenever I needed, I'd have some old candy to eat. And as I grew, I started bringing jars of soup that were canned in the house. I'd bring them up and hide them in my desk upstairs, and whenever I wasn't allowed to have supper or whatever, I would just open up a jar of cold soup and eat that to get me by. So, but you do what you got to do to survive. I didn't expect much of my life, considering what I was being brought up through. It seemed like there was attacks always, so I didn't expect to make it to adulthood. I thought it was an amazing thing to become an adult, it's a rare thing. And there was a time when I was 12 years old where he had, I don't remember if he chased me outside that time or if he drugged me outside, but he was using me as a battering ram up against his little Mazda pickup truck, and something broke in me that day, actually. I'd usually just take the beating and cry off and whatever, but I just kept getting back up, and if you can imagine, I was the runt, like I said, until about grade 10 or so. And yeah, he just, every time he would knock me into the truck, into the ground, I'd get back up and I started yelling at, is that all you've got? I assumed at that point that was my last day. Like, I thought I was dead for sure. And I even started telling him, just like, why don't you just end me already? Just kill me already. What are you, a wimp? And like, I was egging him on because I was just tired of the random abuse, right? I'm just like, I'm either going to survive this day or this is my last day. So, but, and you know, and like, I would say that this is the first day on memory that that my life was saved for sure, because whatever happened in that moment, he suddenly just, his face just dropped and he turned around and went back into the house. Like, I was bloodied up, laying on the ground. My mom was 20 feet away, just crying the whole time, watching it happen and screaming, because like, she was a tiny woman. She's 5 foot nothing, maybe 100 pounds. So all she could do was cry for it to stop. And yeah, so something broke in him that day to stop hitting me, and that was the last day he struck me too. The following day I went to school, and of course I used the old I fell down the basement stairs line to my best buddy at the time. And he went home at lunch and he told his parents what I had told them, what I looked like what they thought it was and stuff. And like, his dad was a pastor, which I'm so very thankful for, because, you know, I mean, you don't have to be a pastor to help someone, but like, I'm so thankful that his dad was a pastor, because, you know, that he saw what was actually happening. He didn't want that to continue, you know what I mean? So by the end of the school day, I actually had a social worker show up, and he was climbing onto my bus before the bus left to school, like calling for me, and I was hiding under the seat, so like, I didn't know what was going to happen, right? So just hiding, and then all the kids on the bus, he's right here, he's hiding. So, you know, that day, my whole life changed. I was put into foster homes. I did bounce around some foster homes. Some were pretty brutal. Some were, I wouldn't say worse than my home, but yeah, there was some abuse in some foster homes, and some were just amazing. I was in 4 different schools, houses, and grades, not grades, but for grade 7. So 4 different homes, 4 different schools, and the last one of the school year was absolutely wonderful. I was shocked. Like, I was getting used to the cycle of abuse. I'm like, okay, it's not my stepdad beating me up anymore. It's this person in this house kind of thing. And yeah, so it was quite wonderful. They took me in. They treated me like their own kid, and they had like a lot of kids there. I would say like maybe 10, 12 foster kids at the time, and they were just wonderful to me. My stepdad, like, to this day, he's my dad. Or no, my stepdad, my foster dad. To this day, he's my dad. Like, he got me into sports. He'd take me to Little League baseball, and he'd be there on the bench with me. I sucked. To be honest, I sucked. I sat on the end of the bench. Like, if I got into a game, like, I was like super nervous, and it was like not very often. But yeah, he'd sit there on the end of the bench with me, having pistachios and seeds and stuff, and just absolutely wonderful. If it wasn't, again, for me being the runt and the other foster kids picking on me, I probably would have stayed there long term. But they ended up moving me again during the summer, just because the older kids weren't getting along with me so well. And then I went through a couple other foster homes, and I actually came back to that foster home for grade 11 and 12. Because I was done with the school that I was at. I'd actually gotten fairly good at sports, and my life was basketball. Basketball is what kept my head clear. You know, my mom had cancer by that point. So me just trying to deal mentally with my past, the abuse I'd been through, dealing with the thought of possibly losing my mom. Basketball was my life. And at the school I was at, through grade 8 through 10, I wasn't given a chance to play. I was mocked, bullied, that sort of thing. So I needed a fresh start, you know. So knock on wood, God gave me a crazy growth spurt to being like one of the tallest in the class, and changed schools. Just kept working at basketball, and you know, I got to go back to that foster home. Got to be back with my dad. Was the greatest foster dad ever. He treated everyone like their own kid. He never yelled. Never once had he rose his voice. You know, he would get annoyed sometimes, but it would be it'd be such a loving annoyed, like he would just be like, well, that's not really what you should be doing, or you should be working towards this and that kind of thing. And like I fed off of that. That was wonderful. That was the fertilizer to my plant. Like, had I had him in my life my whole life, like who knows where it'd be, what it'd attain, kind of thing. And just have that support all the time. It's just wonderful. So when someone's like, oh, I don't have what you have, kind of thing, or I'm not you, and this and that, I'm like, I came from nothing. Like, I was a good kid with a good heart, but I did some bad things, like I definitely, like I stole from candy stores and stuff. I'd lie. I most often lied to avoid a beating. But I lie about stupid stuff, right? Like, kids lie, which is so funny because to this day, like, I absolutely hate lying. Like, I seek the truth. I want the truth in everything. And like, should a lie come out of my mouth, I'm instantly trying to correct it. Like, no, I don't know why I said this. This is a lie. This is the actual truth. I'm so sorry. Like, and never lived the perfect life. Never had the perfect life, but life is what you make it, and we all find our way one way or another. So why am I sharing this? I've been feeling led lately to share my testimony. There's someone out there, or multiple people out there who may need to hear it. I myself, I never had someone teach me about God, teach me about heaven, teach me about Jesus, anything like that. My mom was a kind of a closet Christian. Didn't actually know that she believed until she passed away. She had a Bible with a fancy leather case, and as it brought in, it was beside her nightstand all the time, and I just didn't realize it. The sad truth about that is she never shared it with any of her kids. So I don't know if any of my siblings even know or believe in Jesus. It's really sad, which is funny too, like in speaking with family members and trying to open their eyes to the truth. A lot of them have been conditioned to think that that's just like a charade, or that's a cult, or that's just happy little stories to make you feel safe at night, which is what one of my relatives told me. It's funny because like I know that the slight was meant to be like hurtful, but it was almost more irritating that someone could be so arrogant in what they don't know. So I never had any teachings growing up, but I always knew that there was something more, like even through all of my abuse and stuff, I'm like, there has to be God, there has to be something, you know what I mean? Like, we're not just put here to be beaten to a pulp and then die. Like, that makes no sense whatsoever, you know what I mean? And like who made time? Like, look at the dates, like the years, you know what I mean? Like, and as you do research, like, yeah, like we're in 2024 AD, after death. Okay, after death of what? You know what I mean? Like, Or when you're talking about like the times before that in BC, before Christ, who's Christ? So like, why would they just start tracking time from some random prophet? You know what I mean? So, but anyhoozle, I was raised with my stepdad saying that anything religious or about faith or anything like that was all cults, it's all stupid, it's all ridiculous, and that sort of thing. So he was a godless man, and I do hope that at some point in his life that he did find his way, and that he repented for all of his wrongdoings and that sorts. And I really do hope everyone does. Like, I used to be a really grudge-filled person, and like I have my moments. We all do, right? Like, where we're like, oh, I hope this person eats crap, you know what I mean? But like, at the end of the day, I really do hope we all just find our way back. Like, I hope that we all mend our fences and, like I said, repent, like apologize for what we've done, and just kind of learn from it and grow. Like, I think that would have to be like the worst existence ever, to spend your whole life just being like a surly turd and not doing anything positive in your life. Like, what was your existence? Like, you were here, you ran amok, and then you left. Like, there's nothing positive to inspire others, nothing to help others when they're down, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a perfect person, you know. I think I have a good heart. I'm always looking for ways to help other people, like even if it's a kind word or if like holding open a door or anything, you know, like that stuff makes my day. Like, you know, I never need like a thank you kind of thing. It's more or less like just a smile, you know, like just knowing that like, hey, I help brighten this person's day a bit, you know. But yeah, coming around circle here, like I had no real teachings, whatnot. I had foster parents from grades 8 through 10. They would always go to church every Sunday, and I never got an invite, which is the weirdest thing. Like maybe you're not allowed to bring foster kids to church or to teach them anything. I'm not sure how that works, but yeah, every Sunday they'd get all dolled up and stuff and like, hey, we're going off to church, like we'll see you in a couple hours. And I'd be like, okay, and I would just sit there and I'd like eat my pail of ice cream and watch some cartoons and video game and stuff. And like I didn't think of anything of it at first, but then like over time I'm just like, why don't they invite me? Like I started to think there was something wrong with me, why I couldn't be invited to learn what they're doing. Like, because I had no idea what church was about, you know. I just knew that you got all fancied up and you went to it. But yeah, which is so funny because like we teach our kids everything that we learn and know, and like anything that we've learned that's corrected what we thought, we tell them kind of thing. And like man, I wish I had like parenting like that when I was younger, like someone like truly guiding us, like not just like our childhood, but like guiding us through life, you know what I mean? Like yeah, so I didn't really have any spiritual influence until maybe my early 20s. Yeah, I don't even think I started going to church until I was about 25. What happened actually, I was engaged at the time, and the engagement had just ended due to the other person being involved with someone else. And I believe it was the very next day I was having a bath trying to clear my mind and just listening to some music, and all of a sudden like I was getting like chest pains and I was going numb and my hands crippled up to my chest and I couldn't move anything, and I was actually slowly sliding under the water, and I was panicking because like I didn't know what to do. No one was home. Like my roommates, my now ex and her sister were all out because we were all roommates at the time. And I couldn't scream, I couldn't make a noise. And in my head, I'm just screaming like, someone help me, like, please help me. And like, I see the water slowly coming up my nose and then black. Like as I slid under the water, it just blacked out. I woke up like 45 minutes later, out of the tub, laying naked in the doorway, with a towel across my butt. And I was gasping for water because I guess I was all dried out in my throat somehow, which is odd because wasn't I just underwater? But yeah, my roommates came home and they're like, what are you doing? And I was just gasping for water, and they got me water and dragged me like into my bed. Once I got started moving again, I went up to the hospital, which is just down the street there, and they did tests on me for like 13 hours. And they came back and they're like, okay, well, like you've had a mild stroke. I'm like, what? Like I'm 25, I'm like fairly healthy, and like, yeah, we don't understand either. You've had a mild stroke. You should be happy like that you're still here, kind of thing, and you know, like just go home and get some rest. I'm like, okay, well, how do I avoid this? I'm like, well, just try and live like a peaceful kind of life. Like that was the advice that the physician gave me upon having a stroke. I'm like, all right. So I did have heart pains for about a year or two. Whenever I do anything physical, my chest would hurt and I'd be short of breath. And you know, I was thankful I didn't have any paralysis, any long-term paralysis, because a lot of people end up with like half their body is like frozen and numb and stuff. And like I fully recovered with that, and actually got into marathon running to again clear my head through the stuff that I'd just been through with like the ex and that sort of thing. And yeah, I just kind of moved away from basketball and was doing marathon running because I could just go for a jog, which is so funny. I'd go for a jog and it would be like I'd be gone for a couple hours and I'd come home and just kind of like shower and relax and stuff like that. And I started talking to a friend and they're like, well, how long do you go for? I'm like, I don't know, guess they just run across the city to the park, go around and come home kind of thing. And they're like, that's a half marathon. I'm like, oh, okay. And like, I had no idea that there was races or anything, and I actually got into marathoning that way. She just encouraged me, like, why don't you just run a race? Like, you might as well just run a full marathon. You're training for one without even realizing it. I'm like, okay. So, but that was the second point that God kind of saved me there, because I didn't expect when I was 12 to survive that. I didn't expect when I was 25 to survive the stroke. And after that stroke, like, just looking back, I knew there was more. I absolutely knew there was more, because no one was in that building. No one could have pulled me out of that tub. My roommates didn't. They had just gotten home when they heard me, or when I started gasping when I woke up and started gasping for water, right? So, no one was there. Someone pulled me out of the tub. Someone that wasn't actually there, because the door was locked, so I started going to church and slowly starting to find my way. 2007, there was a Promise Keepers event in Winnipeg, and I went to it. I was just like, oh, it's a men's conference. I want to learn more. Like, I've always been like just a hoard for information. Like, as a kid, I didn't really have storybooks, but we had an encyclopedia set, and my mom was just like, well, if you're bored, go read an encyclopedia. And I think she meant it as like sarcasm. Okay, here we go. Hey, aardvark. And I would just start reading through stuff, and like, I just loved information, just like I love the truth kind of thing. Like, I always want to know what's right, so I know what to believe and what to follow. And so I went to this men's conference, and I'm listening to the speakers for 2 days. It was a 2-day conference. And on the second day, they're doing a call to the altar, which is basically like, hey, if you want to repent, if you want to start new, if you want to put your hand in God's hand and Jesus' hands, like, just come to the front and, like, repent for what you've done. And I'm just sitting there, and like, people who know me know I'm a timid person. Like, stature-wise, I can be imposing, I'm told, but like, I can be like a little nervous bucket. So I'm just sitting there, in the back actually of all the guys, because I didn't want to sit in the front, because like, I'm terrified of attention and stuff. So I'm sitting at the back here, and I'm like, oh man, I wish I'd go up. I'm too nervous, this and that. And without realizing it, a second later, I'm running down the altar, like, not walking or skipping, I'm running. Like, I didn't do it. I'm just like, oh no, okay, I guess I'm running. Halfway between where I was sitting and the stage, I like, okay, here I am. I just keep on going, and I knelt down and I just started sobbing, because like, I felt absolutely horrible for the way that I'd lived my life. Like I said, I'd lie, I cheated on partners, I used to steal, like, it's nothing I'm proud of, obviously. And like, people have worse past than me, and they feel bad for it too, right? So we all have our own story, and it's just a matter of when we decide to turn from it, and when we see the light and want to follow, right? So yeah, that was an amazing experience. And that was the day I got saved. That was 2007. I was 27 years old, and yeah, that's when I started my new life again. Pretty crazy. And being a seeker of truth, I'd always wanted the right information, and you can't always just trust one source. Like, I knew this from a young age. Like, after my stroke there, and I started going to church, like, I always wondered, like, okay, what is the right church? Like, there's so many different, like, beliefs and stuff, and people have different gods and this and that. I'm like, there's no way that these are all true. Like, you can't have multiple gods that say that they're the only god or whatever, you know what I mean, or that are okay with other gods and this and that. Like, impossible. There'd be slip-ups, you'd see them, that sort of thing. So that's a journey that led me to I went to like over 50, maybe even 60 churches now. Just different ways of thinking, different ways of teaching, different gods, different beliefs. Like, I had friends teaching me stones and chakras and stuff, and like, just going to different churches who believed in different things or worshiped different things, and would tell different parts of the story. Like, I found it really interesting, because like, Christianity, or just following Jesus, like, it's the one story that follows the whole story, like, when you've read through the Bible and then you start to listen to these other things where they'll use parts of the Bible, or like they'll just hyper focus on one part of it, or they'll rewrite their own shorter, smaller Bible with only certain parts in it, or just completely different stories and stuff, And there were so many lights that went off for me as I continued to try different things, and you could tell when something's off in a church, that something doesn't seem right, if it felt like a cult, or if it was just a bunch of lies, or if they were misled, or whatever, right? And there's only a handful of churches that I actually felt comfort in, there's only a few pastors that actually spoke the truth, because I would listen to a pastor or a priest or whoever was speaking, whatever their title would be, and I love the hard truth. And sometimes they would give the hard truth, but then they would backpedal, they'd be like, oh, this is how it is, and if you're not a good person, blah blah blah, this is going to happen to you. I'm like, well, but also it might not happen, and this and that. I'm like, no, that's not the truth. You're wishy-washy. So even if they were preaching the truth at first, they would wash it back down and completely omit everything that they were teaching. So I was the cold hard truth, and because of what I was experiencing in my life, I knew that there was more. I had actually forgotten. In my early 20s, I could have died in a car accident. I was driving my sister-in-law to be at the time. We were coming back from Brandon in a snowstorm, and we caught a patch of black ice. So suddenly we are sliding sideways down the number 1 on black ice, going 100 kilometers an hour. And she's asleep, and all I yelled was hold on, and she wakes up and grabs the old crab handle. And she gives me credit for steering back straight. I don't think it was me. The angle we were going, we were dead, 100% dead. And I just started whipping the wheel back and forth, and we straightened right back out and just kept on going like nothing had happened. Still going 100. Wasn't going to hit the brakes because again we were on ice. So we should have died then. But yeah, it's another time that he saved me. That was before I even knew him, right? So that again kind of lit a light at me. I'm like, okay, well, what happened there? Something happened. Someone did something. That wasn't me. There's been quite a few times that I should have died in car wrecks. I remember a time I was going around the perimeter in Winnipeg, and I was in a big SUV, and there was a little Cavalier in front of me. And all of a sudden she jammed on her brakes because some baby ducks were crossing the highway. And I'll admit I was down on my luck, so I couldn't afford the ongoing maintenance in my vehicle, so the brakes were pretty shoddy. I should have destroyed that car. I slammed on the brakes and there was nothing, absolutely nothing whatsoever. And she was literally feet in front of me. I went to crank the wheel, and in doing so, I knew that this was going to send me into a roll, and I'm going to end up in the field, possibly not alive. Craziest thing was that the vehicle popped up onto its front wheel. Okay, so the wheel, I had turned it, so it was now flat. The wheel was flat on the highway, scraping, and the vehicle was on that one wheel, went around the car, and then perfectly back down. It came right back down on all fours. Again, same situation as before, speed never changed. And it just kept going again like nothing had happened. And I turned and looked, and it's the sky's wide open, there's sun rays coming down to my right, just absolutely beautiful. And I pull over, I'm like, I need to take a picture of this. And I pull over, and it's completely gone, it wasn't there. Just thinking about that moment, it was amazing. Another, oh crap, this is my last moment, to thanks for saving me again. A couple years after that, I was driving down old number 2, and good old black ice hit it out of nowhere. And it sucks because this is a 1-lane highway, so oncoming traffic in the opposite lane with no barrier. And there's a semi coming, and I hit this black ice, and I slide and I turn right. My vehicle turns right, sliding, and I'm into the opposite lane. So essentially, I'm now looking at a semi coming straight at me right here, and I gripped the wheel hard, and I just yelled, "Not yet!" And I swear, it could be feet, could have been inches from me. My truck just got grabbed and thrown into the ditch. Like, just, yeah, it just missed me. I was staring at the grill, just crazy moment, and whoosh, whipped me into the snow. It was a couple feet deep in the ditch, and there was water in the ditch, so like my truck basically got thrown into the deep part of the ditch. Didn't roll or anything, just like if you take like a rock to skip it across water, it's kind of like that, just kind of thumped me in there. And the vehicle stopped, and I looked around, and like I was okay, I was alive. My Tim Hortons tea had blue everywhere from the impact, and I was like, I'm covered in tea. Meanwhile, I'm like, you're not dead, dummy. Tow truck driver right behind the semi just kept on going. Tow truck driver that was just behind the semi, he hits the brakes and he starts backing up, and he gets out of the truck, and I climb out of mine into the ditch, and he just looks at me, he's like, I'm looking at a dead man. And I just started laughing because like I'm in shock too, right? And he's just like, I swore you were dead. I saw you hit the truck, like you're dead. Like how are you alive? I'm like, I don't know, I have no idea. And you know, again, I was in hard times right then, and I'm just like, it's like, I can't afford to pay you. He's like, I'm gonna pull you out of here. I'm like, I gotta get you out of that ditch, and gotta get you on your way back home to your wife and kids. And he assumed I had wife and kids because I hadn't said anything. And obviously I had my first kid by that point, and I had a girlfriend at the time. And yeah, he hooked up his truck and dragged me out, and there was nothing wrong with the truck. Like, the truck had literally just been thrown 50 to 100 feet off the highway into the ditch. Alignment was perfect. He's just like, okay, well, see if you can turn around. And I turned around. He's like, okay, well, Merry Christmas. And I'm like, but like, I didn't give you anything, like, for helping to stop to help me. I would have stuck out here, would have froze. Like, he's just like, well, here's my card. Like, if you ever get some money and want to send me some money, you can send it to this. So definitely did. Next time I had some money to send to him, and wished him Merry Christmas again and text. And so, I mean, over and over again, like, God has saved me. And you know, it's really hard to parlay that to people to understand, so that they can see where I'm coming from when I'm trying to express how great life can be. So, and the crazy thing is, like, God doesn't act like just in big events. He's in our lives like every day. We just don't, a lot of times we just don't see it and give him the credit for it, you know? Like, you know, he's helped end relationships for me. I remember one ex, I had found out that she had tracked down my previous ex and was just like looking for dirt on me, which there was no dirt. But like, she'd left her email open, and I went to the computer to use it, and I'm like, why are you chatting with this person? How do you know them? And she freaked out on me and just started taking swings at me. Like, it was pretty intense. She went from like, I knew there was like something wrong with her. Like, she definitely needs some help. But like, at that moment I was like, no, this is way worse than I thought it was. And like, after that moment, like, we slept in different bedrooms and stuff, but after that moment, I'll just back up. We slept in different rooms because we were waiting till marriage before we do anything. But yeah, I thought she was gonna stab me in my sleep. And this is the first time ever, but I cracked open a Bible and I would read it each night. I'd fell asleep reading this big old Bible from like 50 years previously that we just had in the apartment. And yeah, and I figured if I'm going to die in my sleep, I might as well try and get close to whatever is out there. And yeah, I'd pray every night that she would just leave. And then within 2 weeks, she found somebody else, cheated, and then decided to move out. And like, that was amazing. Like, I went from like totally hectic to her completely gone within 2 weeks, and it was just amazing. And even her dad was just like, I'm happy she's moved on. Like, she does this to two guys, and I'm just happy that you're free now, and I hope you find someone nice, kind of thing, which is amazing. Like, but shouldn't you have warned me before? But yeah, and like God works in just the craziest of ways like that. I had a relationship a few years after that I call her Narc 1 for narcissist, the first narcissist that I dated, and it took me. It was a pretty toxic relationship. No matter what I do was completely wrong, and again, it was okay for her to have close guy friends and have feelings for those friends and stuff, but I couldn't have a friend on my social media that she thought was better looking at her, whether I talked to them or not. But beside the fact, it took me 8 breakups to leave that one, and because she just kept reeling me back, and on the 8th time I just kept praying and praying, like for a couple of days, just give me the strength, give me the strength, give me the strength. And like, you know, I drove up there, I walked in the door, and I just ended it right there. Like, I'd never been so firm and strong, and you know. And I texted her parents, I'm like, hey, like I'm finally gone for good. Unfortunately, I can't help her. And they're like, no, you're doing the right thing. Like, we got it from here. Just good luck, and hope you find someone good, kind of thing. And again, I'm just like, why didn't you tell me about? Because like I had several talks with those parents, and they'd actually warned me and stuff, but I ignored the signs, right? So, but it got to the point where it was so bad and toxic that she kept reeling me back with suicide threats and stuff. So I was like, oh, I didn't want that on my conscience. But yeah, I'm glad that once again he gave me the power to close that door, kind of thing, right? Or closed it for me. Yeah, and then another relationship actually right after that one. This is the one that made me want to quit dating completely. It was narcissist number 2. And yeah, this one stole me through my daughter. So like, she was amazing to my daughter, treated her so good, and then just would not treat me very well at all. But like, I was so hyped about her treating my daughter good. I'm like, that's fine, like however she treats me. And like, I remember it was getting so bad. I was actually on medical leave because I needed surgery for my nasal cavity because I had an infection, and I was actually told, had I not gotten the surgery for a couple more weeks, I could have gone into a coma. But yeah, I was supposed to be resting, and I was at her farm, and she kept putting me to work, pressuring me, making me feel bad if I wasn't out there every day. And I remember I collapsed in the barn, and I was just like heaving, like trying to gasping for air, and I was just like, give me some water, please give me some water. And she just picked up a broom and looked at me, she's like, I'm busy. And she just started sweeping the barn floor. And like, I could have died there. I just rested myself up and dragged myself to the house for my water bottle. But like, and I still felt weak, like I couldn't leave. And I just started praying, like, just give me the strength. And then that evening, like, I just felt this like 1,000-fold of confidence to just say, we're done. This is what you've done to me. Like, you're trying to kill me out here, kind of thing. Like, and I packed up and I moved the next morning. And like, you know, I never would have had that strength without God, to be honest with you. Like, a lot of people were like, oh, people can do like amazing things when they believe in themselves. I'm like, yeah, but you can do even more with God. So yeah, you know. And after that, I was done. I was like, I was house hunting, and I was looking for a trailer in the bush, 100% trailer in the bush, you know. Yes, my heart was broken. I was beaten up, waiting for my surgery. I ended up getting my surgery, of course, and felt 1,000 times better. So I haven't had any more fainting or anything like that. So that was wonderful. My body seems to hate me apparently. But yeah, I got through the summer. I actually lost my best friend during that summer. He passed away to a heart attack, so that was rough. I just kept praying, and like, it was a massive loss, like losing the relationship and then losing the buddy who I talked to all the time. And I just told God, like, I'm done with dating. If she's out there, like, I know I'm broken, but if she's out there, just bring her to me. If she's not ready, if I'm not ready, it doesn't matter. We'll make it happen. Like, you know, I don't, otherwise just leave me alone. Don't let any woman get close to me ever again, kind of thing. And I started having these visions of someone. I had no idea who it was, and I was driving down Portage in Winnipeg and going onto an overpass, and all of a sudden I had a vision of this girl's face. I'm like, oh, who's that? Anyway, and then literally a week later, I was on Match. I signed up to Match, and I didn't want to be on there. I'm like, I don't want to be on here, whatever. like, whatever, I'm bored, I'll scroll, and I didn't see anyone that piqued my interest. I'm like, well, I'm gonna extend my view to Brandon, so 200 kilometers, and still, I don't know, because when I was searching, it actually glitched, so it went to like 400 kilometers, and the very first person whose face popped up is now my wife, and it's the face that I'd seen a week or two earlier in those visions while I was driving around. Like, never seen her before in my life. There's no way our paths would have ever crossed because she was in another province and I'd never been there, and she'd never been my way, and yeah, it was nuts. So again, God works in mysterious ways. Like, I told him, like, all I want is my one or nothing. Like, I was completely fine getting a trailer in the bush and just being by myself forever. But if he had a plan, he had a plan, and all of a sudden, here you go. So yeah, it's just crazy. He's in everyday life. Like, there's times where I'm going out for a drive and I'll get a feeling like, ooh, I shouldn't go this way, and I'm like, but I'm curious. I'm like, what is this way? And like, I'll come across like a huge accident or something. It could have been me, like within seconds or something, you know what I mean? Or someone zipped by right in front of me, almost hitting me. And like, there's so many everyday occurrences like this. It's crazy. So God's definitely real. He's definitely there looking out for us. We just have our eyes closed, like we're so taught about the secular world to follow the secular worldview, which is like whatever the government and the media say. And like, I remember praying in school. I remember the Lord's Prayer. I remember God Save the Queen. I remember when it was completely normal to talk about God in school and Jesus. And then slowly over the years, I watched it all erode. Like, by the time I was in high school, like, I could kind of see the truth. I saw teachers were skirting around certain subjects, and whenever I bring up them teaching us stuff we can actually use, they'd get upset with me and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I understand if they took it as an insult to their teaching plan, but I was asking for more teaching. I want to learn more that we could use, So, yeah. And you may be wondering, like, hey, Les, what's the point of, like, this testimony and all these stories that you've been through and stuff? And, like, essentially is I want you guys to be aware of what you can't see, Like, I've been saying it for years, like, before the pandemic and everything else, like, question everything. If something seems off, research it. And don't just research the one side that you're kind of leaning to. Research both sides, because the truth is in there. There's a bit of truth on both sides. If it's leaning to one side, it's leaning to one side. But you have to have all the angles before you can come to that, right? And the same thing with continuous learning. Like, I will research the heck out of a view that I side with, and even the bad. You know what I mean? Like, I want to know all sides of something before I support it or before I believe in it. Like, the Shroud of Turin. Now, most of you have never heard of that. Do a Google of it. Like, you won't hear about that every day, but yeah, they actually have the linen cloth that Jesus was wrapped in, and the stories to it are amazing. You need to look into that, watch some videos, do some research. Just amazing, like, Jesus was real. And the fact that, like, people try to smother it out, especially the elites, they try to smother it all out so that you think that there is no God. Why? Because a godless society will follow the government. A godless society will be corrupt. A godless society will not do good just to do good, like, they'll always look out for themselves. They'll focus on things instead of souls and eternity. There was 300 plus prophecies that Jesus met when he came to this world. Hundreds of years before he was even there, God had said, these are the things that are going to happen when the Messiah comes. And Jesus lined up with over 300 of them. Like, can you believe that? Like, the fact that you would line up with one or two of them would be pretty far-fetched. So just do your research. Like, I mean, look at Christianity. It's the one and only view that is attacked in this world. It's okay if you affiliate yourself with any other worldview, but if you're a Christian, you're under attack. Why is that? Because evil attacks truth. Evil leaves alone lies because they want you led astray. They want you thinking about different things, focused on different things. Like, if you don't have a relationship with Jesus and know Jesus, like, you can't go to heaven. Like, we're born destined for hell. As odd as that may sound, and we have to find our way back. That's basically our journey here. Pardon me. basically our journey here is to find our way back, and like as time goes on, it gets harder and harder. Like the world is focusing more and more on sin and making sin okay and renaming sin, and saying and attacking you if you try to follow the truth, like they're like, oh, you are anti this, you are anti that. Like, no, I'm following the truth. Like, I don't hate anyone. I have strong feelings against some of the bad people, but I've learned not to hate people, which is huge. Like, again, like look back from where I've come from. I've gone from those upbringings to praying for those people and hoping that they find their way. Like, you need to, there's peace in Jesus, like there's healing in it. Like a huge thing that would help me, because I was pretty damaged when I met my wife. Not gonna lie, like I've been doing lots of work on myself with the years, with counseling and research and you name it, anything to kind of help myself, get myself healed, get myself ahead. But it was my birthday a month after we met, and she wasn't sure what to get me, but she was going through a program called Freedom Session, which is basically like a Christian-led program to help you heal the parts of yourself that you either can't let go of, or that you blame yourself for, or that you're still holding on to anger for others. Like it's huge. If you have the time, do it. If you don't have the time, make the time. I think it was like a 4-month program or something, and like just watching her change, because she was in the early weeks of it when I first met her, and just watching her change week to week, like becoming lighter and happier and like less stressed, and like it was amazing. I'm like, I would love to try that program, but I'm broke right now, so like maybe once I get ahead. Seems to be a recurring theme. I'm broke. But yeah, for my birthday, she bought me the books for the program. All I had to do was pay for the program itself, like for doing it, and I was good. And I tell her to this day that was the best gift that anyone has ever given me. And she's like, I was unsure if it was even going to be like a good gift, or if you would hate it and this and that. I'm like, no, like essentially that gift helped save my life again, like so many times. Like I feel like I'm a cat, I hate cats. I hate cats. They're always clawing stuff, and I'm allergic to them, but they're cute. I don't even want to count how many times I could have died, because what if this is my 9th chance? Don't want to be superstitious now and be on my last life. But no, I urge you, like I'm not telling you to believe what I'm saying. I'm urging you to look into it so you can believe it for yourself, like I tell my kids all the time, like we're giving you the teachings, but it's your life, like if you decide to go off and do your own thing and it unfortunately costs you whatever it costs you, or it gains you whatever it gains you, that is your life decision, like ultimately when I pass, I would like to see my family in heaven one day, and I say sometimes, because I get down on myself, I'm like, if I make it to heaven and my wife gets upset, like, when you get to heaven, I'm just like, I know, I just, looking at my wife, like, I feel she's a much better person than I, like, as much as I've improved over the years, I'm still kind of a dick, like, I've lost my ability to soft wash the truth, so like I can come across abruptly, and my friends know this, like never mean to, it's just my personality, right? Like I used to be the kind of person who would like never say a thing, never want to correct anyone, never want to like create ripples or anything, or any kind of instability, and now it's just like, no, they need to know the truth, I need to tell them. And like again, during the pandemic, I learned that a lot of people don't like that, like no matter what you share with them, like a lot of times we're conditioned to not believe things like that, like so many things that are out of the mainstream media are considered conspiracy, like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. I'm like, no, I'm a research person, like you gotta research. You've got to really turn off those kinds of things. Stop listening to the government, stop listening to the mainstream media, like do your own research. I read so much. I don't read books. Like I've had this goal to be each year when we go through our goals with my family, and I have this goal of like, I want to read 4 books this year, 4 books, and like we just did a checkup a couple days ago, and like that's 0. I have 0 books read this year, other than been reading the Bible, but I haven't completed it this year yet, so it's still sitting at 0. But if you added up all of the research I do, like through videos, through readings, like all kinds of stuff, like I'm sure that's quite a few books. Like every day there's something I'm looking up. I was even talking to the wife, and I was just like, here's something else that I wanted to look into that I completely forgot about, and it's like more hidden truths on another subject, right? And I won't get into that, but like I love knowing the truth because I want to know what's real and what's fake, because like there are actual conspiracies, but then there's stuff that is like really crazy that's been covered up. So, but yeah, anywho, I love you. You know, I believe in you. We all have a high self-worth. We just may not have that self-worth for ourselves. I don't care what you've been through, you know. I don't care the kind of person that you are, who you've been. I don't care what you've done in the past, you know. Like, Jesus does. But he loves you too, you know, and he wants you to apologize for what you've done. He wants you to feel bad for what you've done. He wants you to change your ways, you know. He wants you just to be a better person and to be the light in the world, you know. Like, it's finding your way is a very different journey for everybody, you know. Like for my wife, it hit her instantly. I believe she was 15 or 16, and it was like boom, there it is. And for me, it was the stroke which started everything. But I've always been a hard learner, you know. Like I question it, I scrutinize everything, I question it so hard, you know what I mean? Like just to know every angle before I commit to believing. And like, you know, with Jesus, it's taken me years to gain harder and harder, but like, man, one of my favorite songs, Jeremy Camp, This Man. So it's basically like, would you take the place of this man on the cross? I'm like, man, when I watch the Passion of the Christ, it kills my heart. Like I get so angry and so hurt, and like I would 100% step up on that cross for him and take his spot, you know. It wouldn't have done the same effect as what he did. Like I wouldn't have been resurrected, that's for sure. But like, man, like he has grown into me so much over the years, and like it doesn't even bother me anymore when people mock me, because I used to take great offense to it and I just shut down and just not bother talking. But like now it's like, man, I feel bad for this person, you know. Like I'm going to pray for them, you know. That's my first thing. I used to get so upset and like almost vengeful, you know what I mean? But like now it's like I feel bad for them, you know. They're so misled. Like they've taken such a proud stance against the truth that they don't even know about, you know. But I really hope this has spoken to you. I'm very impressed. I usually stutter quite a bit. I actually recorded this in about 10-12 minute segments, just to give myself a breath so I don't start stuttering. But I actually prayed lots before this to make sure I don't stutter. And I had to do this when I'm not focused staring at the camera so that I don't stutter. So, yeah, I love you, man. Love you, girl. You know, whoever you are, wherever you are. Just want you on the right path. Question everything. Make sure it seems right. If something's off, look into it, you know. We're all in this together, whether the world seems to think it or not. Just got to find our way, overcome what we're going through. You know, anything is possible. I was a beaten up kid raised on welfare. I was a runt, you know, stuck in foster homes, which was better than my real home. And you know, I've had so many struggles along the way, and look how happy I am, you know. Like look how much I've drugged myself to be, you know. Like you just got to keep picking yourself up and carrying on, you know. When life pushes you down, you get back up and say, is that all you got? You know, like, is that all you got? Either kill me or I'm going to win, you know. And that's kind of how you got to take life, you know. I don't want anyone to ever quit. That's the worst part. I remember in my early 20s, I went through a lot of suicide thoughts and wrote the notes many times. Like, being honest with you, like, I struggled hard after my mom passed away. I had no real direction. I had no, like, she was the only person I would really open up to at the time. And like struggling through everything and keeping it all inside. Like even when I went to school the next day after she passed away, like people asked me where I was. I'm like, oh, my mom passed away. And they're just, haha, nice joke. And then one of my other friends was like, no, she did. And then that was all I ever said about it, you know, because like I wasn't someone to open up, and like that's changed me too. Like I'm here to share my story to whoever wants to listen or whoever's interested, and I hope that it actually resonates in them and helps them somehow, you know. Like we're not alone. I'm happy I never completed those notes. I'm happy that I overcome every beating, every time I was shoved down by life, you know, like every circumstance where I was cornered in the wall, you know what I mean? Like where I could have lost my house or my job or whatever it would be at the time, you know. Like we just got to keep getting up, you know. It's what we're here to do, here to overcome. So I urge you to become an overcomer and find your way. Just follow the truth and you'll get there. God bless.